Hi, Pastor Nathan Decker with your hashtag Better Together devotions for today. And this week, I want to dive into Matthew's gospel and specifically look at Jesus's riddles, or parables, as we are more commonly calling them. Parables was a form of communication and preaching that was very common in the first century. It was the way that rabbis spoke. It was the way that they taught. It wasn't just a Jesus thing. It was the way that a lot of rabbis did. They would look for something common and everyday to point to something heavenly. And Jesus does this, especially in Matthew's gospel, beginning around chapter 13. He begins talking about one of the wonderful parables, and he actually explains this one to a certain extent. The parable of the sower and the soil. Now, the main thing about parables sometimes to pay attention to is who the characters are and what Jesus pays attention to and what Jesus introduces first and foremost. The parable of the sower is really a parable about God. It's a parable talking about God, spreading God's word, spreading God's love, spreading who God is into the world. And of course, there are all these different weird soils and stuff. Ones that have rocks and ones that have thorns and ones that have good soil, as well as some that are on the road. One of the most amazing things to think about in this parable is just how wasteful, how extremely wasteful and generous this sower is. I know farmers who are really tight, farmers who count their fingers after they shake hands with you. That's how tight they are. And farmers really want to be conservative when it comes to expending resources, because the more they expend, the less yield, the less product, the less they get back. This farmer doesn't seem to have a problem with that. This farmer casts seed among the hard-hearted. This farmer casts seed among the shallow. This farmer casts seed among those who are going to let the world's worries grope at them and root them out and keep them from enjoying the fruits of the Spirit. And this farmer doesn't mind also casting it on the good soil. It's something to think about in the way that we reflect on who God is. A lot of times I think somehow our guilt, our shame, our lack of being able to forgive ourselves makes us think that God is just as hard-hearted and just as mean-spirited and just as stingy about forgiveness and stingy about love. But this parable that Jesus tells us is that God is not stingy. God is a God of abundance. And God is a God who casts seed on every single human being. God desires that everyone be touched by the word, everyone be touched by the love of God. God desires that you and I reflect God's love in this wasteful generosity of expending and offering love to even those to whom will never love us back. Jesus said it another way when he was preaching in the Sermon on the Mount. He said, "Love your enemies. Don't you see that even the evil people love their friends? Love beyond that. Love beyond the golden rule. Love as I have loved you," he says in the Gospel of John. Be like the sower. Throw seed, throw love, throw concern for all humanity, throw compassion and mercy everywhere, even when you think it's wasteful. This is Pastor Nathan Decker reminding you that if we do this, we'll be better together.